Hi, it's Scott Hall, the unconventional farmer. Today I'm going to put in a third installation on the small series that I'm doing about the risks and rewards of farming. Now, this is all based on the premise that farmers are essentially futures traders or in soft commodities or soft commodity speculators. Now, I was going to go into some of the crops that I think are going to be have a bit of risk and reward in the future, as there are huge structural changes in our economy. But I'll forego that one until the next one, and I will talk a little bit about some cycles in today's economy and how it's leading, well, you know, how it's that model is working towards extinction. Just for a little bit of background, right now I'm in the small country town of Gayndah in Australia. Now, Gayndah is a famous town for its citrus production. Gayndah has a long history of bountiful production. The whole place is just really well suited to primary production of many different types, but citrus is the main crop now, particularly mandarins. And I thought I'd do this talk while I took a little bit of a walk through town. Now, Gayndah isn't as prosperous as it used to be, but production now is possibly higher than it's ever been. Now, the reason is many, but I'll go into a main reason. One of the big things is that this is common too amongst many production towns in Australia. And one very good case is in Batlow, Australia, the apple town, famous town for apples, Batlow, very beautiful town, and beautiful soil and just beautiful apples coming from Batlow for many, many, many years. But the town is shutting down, and not many apples are produced there. There still are apples produced there, but it's, yeah, look, the town's dying. Gayndah isn't far behind, but I believe towns like Gayndah and Batlow and many others in Australia and perhaps around the world have got good futures, but they have to restructure. So one of the main reasons, and the reasons what I'm going to go into today, that's a load of empty citrus bins leaving the co-op, the Gayndah pack house, and that's perfect for leading me into co-ops. And this, again, I will allude, this will always move back into the secular cycle that we're coming to the end of, and we're at the end of the business cycle within that, because as the secular cycle closes, so does the business cycle. The business cycle based on the fundamentals of the secular cycle can't exist, obviously, without that secular cycle supporting it. So these towns were really productive. I think it was, if I remember right, I think, you know, years ago, one of the locals told me this, years ago, that 500 citrus trees was enough to support one family, one household, one farming household, 500 citrus trees. Well, you can probably guess that that's not the case anymore. The farms are huge, And just last night I was having a conversation with another local, and he was saying that, you know, there's probably something like 10 to 15 actual farms left in Gayndah. They've just shrunk in numbers but increased massively in size and scale. Of course, it's the economy of scale, and I call it the race to the bottom. It's a race to the bottom because of diminishing returns, financially and ecologically. So razor thin margins, you just need to boost up on cheap credit in order to make a margin on that borrowed money. Right now I'm crossing the bridge. This is the Burnett River. It's a great river. We've got quite a bit of water coming through it now because we've got a very once in a blue moon rainy season. Water everywhere. As a matter of fact, they've just shut down the picking in town because it's too wet. It's the fruit. The fruit starts to rot when it's too wet. So a lot of the farmers lost out this year. It was a bit of a shame. On the other hand, the cattle guys are going well. The cattle growers are they've got a lot of green grass and probably enough soil moisture to keep things looking quite good through the winter. Anyway, the co-ops. So what happened was, now this is again, this is back to the herd mentality. What we've got to do to avoid these common traps, you know, we've really got to think for ourselves and be strategists. So and this has to do with the cheap credit cycle, the big influx of cheap credit in the last 20 years. So what happened was the town hummed along very well. This is the same fate that Batlow suffered, and many towns like it. So yes, everyone was humming along nicely, and they all took their fruit to the co-op, the pack house, where the co-op did the marketing, packed the fruit, boxed it, you know, all that, took care of logistics and marketing. And everybody got a price, the same price for everything, because when the co-op released the goods, it all moved onto the market at the same time. It was a stable price. It was a fair price. But what happened was, and I'm going to bring accountants into this, because accountants are not financial strategists, and they make a mistake of moving into financial and economic strategy. There's another flatbed, a lot of transport, a lot of goods moving around in and out of the city, in and out of the town to the city. Yes, so the accountants are going to lay a little bit of blame on accountants. Not all accountants, but yeah, so anyway, with this cheap credit cycle, some smart, clever cookies thought that they could get a better price for their crops. And they could beat the co-op to the market. So they borrowed heavily, bought up neighbouring farms, and put their own pack house into their business. And so they picked earlier, packed earlier, and beat everybody to the punch, and they got themselves a better price. So one person saw somebody doing it, they decided to do it. Somebody else did it, they decided to do it. And the accountants were running the books, they were running the numbers and saying, well, you know, if you want to make more money, this is how you do it. Look, you know, you get onto the market earlier. There's no foresight in that. And what it ended up being was a race to the bottom. Go for a walk up here. We're in the main street of town now. So it ended up being a race to the bottom. And everybody was front running, everyone else trying to beat everyone to the punch. And the fruit got picked greener and greener and greener. And guess what, Australia? That's why our mandarins taste like shit. So empty shops. There's a lot of empty shops in town, such as the fate of many rural communities in Australia. We're going to turn that around. Things are going to change. Farming's going to be the future. We're going to kick some ass, but we'll save those for another day, another story. So yeah, a race to the bottom, greener and greener fruit. So everybody was racing each other to the front until the lowest prices came at the earliest possible time in the season. There was no way out. Yeah. That's it, you know, and I know that the supermarkets have got a lot to do with that too, but there's a lot of factors involved. So there's no strategy in that. There's no planning in that. There's no futures or commodities trading in that. It's just accountants looking at the day, in the present, in the now, and saying this is what we do. No planning for the future, no strategy. So accountants play a very important role in our businesses, but I'd be very, very careful about their financial planning or their economic strategy. You've got to play the long game, not just see what works well for your business, but how what you do affects other businesses and how it affects the market and how it might actually lead to your undoing for a short-term gain. So that's looks like there's a little bit of work going on in this shop. Maybe. So that's how it leads to the undoing, the race to the bottom. And now our towns are out. But look, there is a way out, and I will be talking to more farmers in more towns about how we can do this. And I'll go into another video later on in the risks and rewards of farming. But I think they're getting $5 a carton at the moment for a 10 kilo carton or 13 kilo carton of Mandy's. So right now the market's paying $5 per carton. It costs them about $2 a carton just to buy the carton. It's no good. So we can do better, and let's.